But then when I hear the songs hundreds of times during the editing, all the shootings and the production of the video, that kind of like goes down a bit. So it's like I wear out my favorite songs usually quite badly before the album actually comes out. So the period where band is not that in much of a contact with the music, I'm constantly in contact. So I lost another favorite song basically today when I got one of the videos done, and I don't want to hear the song ever again.
Greetings to our GC viewers. Today we are speaking with Tuomas. He is leader of the pack for the acclaimed band Wolfheart. You may also know him from some other projects like Before the Dawn. And hi, Tuomas. Thanks for joining Go Scout today. We appreciate it.
Hey, it's all my pleasure.
All right. We have a few questions. We all want to know all about the new album, Draconian Darkness, releasing September 6th via Reigning Phoenix Music. So let's dive right in. If you could describe this new record in one sentence, what would you say?
I would go with one word, like like I've done so many interviews already. I started to like summarize myself to make things more efficient. It's darker. Darker is a good word. Yeah, it's a lot darker than especially the previous one. Probably the darkest album of our career so far.
Okay, and it's even in the title, so there could be a there. Yeah. Well, as someone who has been listening since 2015's Shadow World, I would say that this has slightly less winter whimsy as works in the past, and a little bit more of a eerie twang and darkness to it. So, and you've already kind of mentioned, but how would you consider this different from your past works?
Well, that's quite well said. That it's not that wintry that we usually do with music. It's just somehow it became a lot darker. It's also like the production choice on this album. I wanted especially the orchestrals to be more cinematic than symphonic. Like not that victorious maybe, but more like this ominous movie soundtrack, kind of like a stuff that carries also a little bit like the darker and more like a grim feeling to the album. And they have a bigger role also on this album.
Yeah. So the title, Draconian Darkness, where does that come from?
It's funny to start doing these interviews again because I had like a 2-week pause and I did like the production ready for the next Dawn of Solace album. And now it feels like this is the first interview of the whole Wolf. I clearly completely like went blank in the 2 weeks, and now like, what is this album about again? Like, what was the title of the album? But it's a very strong connection with the previous album, King of the North, because I wanted to keep this like theme way of writing, like having a concept sort of like the previous 2 albums were concept albums. Wolves of Karelia was about 3 months of Finnish war history, so it was super narrow. And then we had the Finnish mythology on the previous one, more wide, but a lot more scattered also. And this is even wider, but still a concept. Like the previous album was about the time that the mankind was respecting nature, and we fear and worship nature also. The whole like the human living cycle went around the nature. And now this like the modern man, we don't respect the nature. We don't fear the nature. We don't like worship anything in the nature. We just take whatever we want and we kill and burn the rest. Right. And this is where like this new album is like the flip side of the coin, because I got very much into the whole theme of the mythology, and I've been working as a gardener for a quarter of a century. So I've literally planted forests in Finland already. So seeing this the pattern, and we did the concept album with the Second World War time. This pattern has been going on for a few hundred years, and it will continue. But that's the legacy of man of the modern age. That's the darkness we are bringing to the world.
So would you consider this almost like a continuation in the message that you've already been talking about in your albums?
Kind of. It's like continuing in a way, but it's just like I said, it's like a flip side of the coin. Like things were good certain hundreds of years ago when we thought bears are God, and we need to pray for the rain to be able to feed our families. And now that's kind of fucked up, and this is gonna be the inevitable destruction of the whole world if this continues.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's more like this observational thing. The previous albums were, I had the documentation in the history that were the core of the concept of the album. This is more like me observing the way of the mankind and what's probably going to happen in the future.
Okay.
Somebody told me, one reporter told me that this is more like science fiction album, which I never thought of myself, but it kind of is actually, which is...
Yeah, maybe your predictions for the future, which is, futuristic, science-y.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, hopefully, there might be a happier outcome, but who knows? So, yeah, and Wolfheart started as a solo project. Now you have 4 members, and each one plays such a significant role in the music, and more and more with the vocals and the natural evolution of the band is taking place. Does your writing style diversify with that kind of change, going from solo to being a 4-member band?
Yeah, like the biggest change happened between the Winterborn and the Shadow World when Joonas became to be the drummer, because of course he's so much faster and better and technical and whatever compared to me. So that opened already so many doors in the rhythmical side, what kind of stuff I can write. And now with Lauri and Vageliss having a bigger role with vocals, that of course affects my writing already with the riffs and the melodies, because now I know that it's not just like my vocals that are the last element we're going to add on the songs. I'm basically a percussion when it comes to what I can contribute to the music. I don't do any melody. I don't bring any mood except the aggression and the rhythm, but having guys who can do clean vocals and melodic screams and stuff like that, of course, that gives a different like a toolkit for the melodies. Now I can like transfer a lot of those to the vocals, and it has a lot bigger impact on the listeners, I think, because guitar will always sound like a guitar. But when you add a human voice, that is a new element for the music, that gives completely a new layer. The human voice carries emotions in a completely different level. So that's a lot more powerful like element also. So it's not just expanding the songwriting, but also the results.
Yeah. Do you find that the more elements there are, the more complex the writing is it more challenging, or?
It is easier. It is
easy.
Yeah. You have more pieces in the puzzle that you can put on the board. It's still done. So it's like you can, and also you can try out things a lot more. Now I have 3 vocalists in the band that we can push the boundaries, what we can do, and like it makes things a lot more interesting and also easier.
Yeah, lots to play with there. So are there any outstanding moments on the new record that have a strong emotional reaction for you?
It varies. There's I'm heavily like involved with the video production also. I've done all the video editing and the production of all of my videos so far, which means that like usually the video songs are most of the cases my favorite songs of the album, and they have the impact as a songs or with the lyrics or the vocals. But then when I hear the songs hundreds of times during the editing or the shootings and the production of the video, that kind of like goes down a bit. So it's like I wear out my favorite songs usually quite badly before the album actually comes out. So the period where band is not that in much of a contact with the music, I'm constantly in contact. So I lost another favorite song basically today when I got one of the videos done, and I don't want to hear the song ever again until we probably going to play it in Germany next weekend. But that's how I feel now. So it varies. I think the biggest song for me on the album is Grave, because that was the first song I wrote, and that kind of like set the path, because that was surprisingly aggressive to me. But then again, I don't analyze when I write it. I just make a song and then I listen to the song. That kind of like set the bar for the rest of the album, and that's one of the reasons why it probably became so dark, because the first song was already on that level.
Is that usually how your writing process kind of takes place? It starts with a song and then just blossoms from there?
One song, and then the album starts to like build up around the song. I know a lot of bands that they write like 15 songs and then they pick the 11 best or whatever, but I never had any like extra songs. I always start to write the album like around the initial idea the first song basically that I wrote. And then at some point I realized like now I'm done, or I need this one particular song for this part of the track list, and then I'm done. But I don't have any need to like do any extra, which is horrible when the label comes back to me and say like, we need this one song for Asian bonus, and can you give us one song for this and this, and then I need to go and write additional songs from the scratch that don't belong to the album, and then it doesn't feel right for me to write those songs because the album is already done, and now I need to do this like a second grade stuff because of the label. Some needs some bonus, but
is that varied label to label of what they require of you? Okay, so right now you're the issuing or reissuing or B-side, whatever you want to call it, bonus tracks are kind of required then?
Now it looks like I don't need to do any of those, which I would be super happy. I never really understood the point from a songwriter's perspective, because the album is ready now. Now I just like if you had like a chef and your wedding cake is complete, and then somebody comes and says like, add one more decoration. It doesn't need it anymore. It's not going to be any better because of that, but it serves like more like a business purpose. Because the licensing label from Asia or whatever thinks that they need to have something extra for their customers. There's nothing to do with the music itself. It's just business.
Yeah. There is that side of it. This question kind of relates to the previous one. Are there any lyrical lines that stick out in your mind that you kind of find yourself reflecting on? Something that you've written that you maybe go back to?
In a way, actually, yes. Really, really, really nice question. It's in Finnish, so it's a bad choice for this interview because it doesn't even. I tried to make the translation for the booklet, but it doesn't translate because it's very like this old school poetic Finnish thing. So the structure and the rhymes and the rhythm, they don't exist probably in any other language. But it's from the song Rave, and it's the only Finnish lyrics on this album. And of course, as a mother language, it hits a little bit deeper. Writing that kind of stuff, and it's very like a vengeful and angry part in the song, and I wrote it deliberately to be quite harsh. And I've been super frustrated lately for reasons I'm not allowed to say, but it's kind of like I've been in that mindset for the past few weeks or so. So that fits really well. It doesn't like I would be super happy to be explained the lyrics a little bit better, but like I said, it's always when I write in Finnish, I write a poem more than lyrics, and then I sing the poem with the rhythmics that is required for the song. So
okay, the Finnish language is able to capture, I think, certain emotions that maybe English is a little limited in at times. There's a reason for that, but I definitely engrave there's still an emotion conveyed, even though we may not understand the lyrics. It's definitely conveyed there. And the release of this new album is only a few days before the second anniversary of King of the North, your last record. Do you try to produce new material on any kind of schedule? How does that work for you?
I probably would have gone to studio earlier already with the new album, but I didn't get the approval from the management. They told it's too early. And we had quite a long negotiations about the new label. So that kind of like, I think that set the schedule this time. Like if that process would have been faster, of course, the album probably would have gone out a little bit earlier, but then again, that's not the place where you want to rush. So I'm super happy it went like this, but to me, 2 years is quite a long time as a songwriter. It's not like I set the schedule, but I already have few ideas for the new music. So it's like if I would need to sit on those ideas for next 2 years and the album comes out in like 2027, that's going to be a long wait for me. So I do like to write fast and get it's not smart. I've been told that several times to release albums so frequently, but it makes a challenge for the touring cycle. Festivals, a lot of the festivals in Europe, they don't book bands that were there like year or 2 years before. So like 3 years between the albums would be the minimum ideal, which I never done with any of my bands. Releasing multiple albums in 1 year is horribly stupid, which I'm going to do this year also, because the new Dawn of Solace album is probably going to come out in December. But it's like, I don't set the schedule. It's just a certain rhythm I need to get the music out, and that dictates when the albums need to come out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sounds again like that fun business side of things coming into play.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I get a lot of headache for labels sometimes because I can get very like headstrong also that I really want to get the album out. Like I don't like the idea of sitting on top of like new music, especially because of the writing style that I write the album. Not just that I have a bunch of songs and I can just wait for a year and then pick the best ones, but in my head is already like full piece of music that needs to have like the graphics and the videos and the things need to happen. But yeah, I don't. That's why there's the music business also. They do the business, and it's their headache, and I'm just the artist. And I don't need to.
Artist.
I don't need to be smart. I don't need to do smart. I just need to do music, and then that's my part of the whole equation.
It's good to keep things simple, right? Can help. So you are well known as being a multi-instrumentalist, and do you have a preference what you like to play? Favorite instrument?
At the moment, it's drums. I went more heavily with the drum training like 2 years ago when we brought Before the Dawn back, and now there was also the recording of Dawn of Solace, and we did the EP with Before the Dawn. So I've been spending a lot more time in the studio with drums than guitar, and yeah, I played more gigs as a drummer in the past 12 months that I've ever played. So, but at the same time, I'm not getting any younger. I can feel that like my muscle memory and my like ability to learn new things or get faster or better in general in anything takes a little bit more effort than it took like 20 years ago. So it like I need to focus that on more also. So it's I love play drums at the moment, but I need to play a lot of drums at the moment at the same time. But that's what I do most of the time, and then I play guitar when I have time.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you're kind of doing more percussion anyway in Wolfheart. So is there a correlation with that?
Not much. It does, like when I started playing drums when I was a teenager, it helped a lot with the songwriting in general. It helps with any band because then you understand the balance between the drums and the bass and the guitar, and like and what works better with the guitars, what kind of things you can do as a drummer to accent certain things with the guitar to make the whole thing sound tighter or better. Because if you have like a bunch of guys competing who does the coolest trick on the song and does the fastest lick, or like, but they don't play together in that sense, of course the music is not going to sound that tight at all. So like every new thing that I learn with the drums also helps me to become a better guitar player or better bass player in the studio or whatever. So it's I think that's the correlation.
Yeah, adds a lot to it, I think. You've done some really exciting collaborations on a lot of your albums, and is there anyone you have in mind you would want to collaborate with in the future?
No, because like it doesn't mean I wouldn't want to work with other people, but it used to be like a decision that we don't bring, especially with Before the Dawn and Wolfheart, we don't bring any like guests, because I had the Dawn of Solace that has like multiple different singers, so that's a different thing to begin with. But both Before the Dawn and Wolfheart, we just do the albums with our own guys, and it doesn't serve the purpose to bring like any extra persons. But then with the King of the North, there was Jesse Leach and Carl from Nile, and that kind of like that created this thing that a lot of people started asking who's going to be the next guest vocalist, or like other people offering that they could do vocals or some other stuff in the future songs. But I don't like the idea that much. Like it worked really well on the previous album, but I'd rather give that spotlight to Lauri and Vageliss than bring any like outsider, because it's not like we need guest vocalists like quality wise or any other way. So having those guys on board with their like a great voices, I rather put them on the podium and get more attention for them. I think it's just it serves the band in the future and our career also. The more varied people see the band, not just there's one clear leader and then there are the other guys, but they should see the band like everybody being able to lead like when their time comes on the song.
If you could just have for fun and you could pick anyone you wanted to and just jam with or something outside of your actual projects? A dream project, perhaps. Would there be anyone you would want to work with?
There's few. There's definitely few. There's weirdly like two of the guys actually play in the same band, but I would really like to play guitar with James Stewart, who's the drummer in Decapitated. But at the same time, I would love to play drums when Vogue, the guitar player, would be playing guitar. I think both would be like they just happen to be in their own field the coolest and best guys available. I would like to have also in the same band. I don't know how it works if I play guitar and the drums, how we're gonna switch the whole thing around. But I would like to have the vocals from Niklas from Orbit Culture.
Yes,
he would be awesome. Then again, with his riffs, I would also love to play drums on that one. So those would be cool. I don't think those would ever happen, and though like either one of us in this concept, it would actually benefit much, but that would be super cool.
Yeah, it's okay to dream. Orbit Culture actually just headlined in Detroit last night. Normally they just open, and it's like 20 minutes, so getting a full hour of that, man, that was something special. I'm with you there. The whole band is exceptional.
I never saw them live, and it took me a long time to get into the band. Like I started noticing Vultures of North started to be in every playlist, and like I just saw the logo of the band and the song title and the band names in so many places. But I'm too old to dig into new music in that level. That if I see something interesting, it doesn't mean that I would actually go and listen. I listen music very rarely. I listen to music only in a car and in the gym. I don't listen. I don't have any musical device at home. Like if I need to check like a new master of an album or some pre-production tapes, I will do that with my laptop. But otherwise, accidentally, it was playing at the gym where I always go, and I had to ask the other guys like, "What is this song? This sounds really cool." And they were like, "This is new band, Orbit Culture. It's like Vultures of North or something." And then I put the whole album on, and I've been listening to that album like at least once every time I go to gym the past year. I didn't know that I would get that excited about new band and new album ever. So it is exceptional is a good word. I didn't really believe that this modern time would bring that level of, and the funny thing is there's nothing new about it. It's super simple, minimalist, even genius way of arrangements, and everything is just so well tied together that like for example, the Vultures of North is basically two riffs, the whole song. And the main riff is just one chord basically. And still you go through the 5 minutes and you're like, did it end already? So
you're just preaching to the choir, because it's next level, but at the same time not necessarily reinventing the wheel. So it's a really delicate line to
it is walk. That's why I call it genius, or because I tried to analyze it so many times, like what is certain songs and riffs, and like I've heard those things quite many times. It's like rhythmical, like I have different angles even with the analyzing the sound or production or the drums or the arrangement, composition, the vocal rhythms, and I can't summarize it, but it still works so well. So there has to be some genius level, and I think it's cool. The best thing with art is that you dig something that you don't fully understand. I think this kind of is also very important. You shouldn't understand. If you like it, you like it. But
yeah, absolutely. And enjoy, right? It's nice to enjoy again, just music and not overthink it. So absolutely. So I was going to jump into some really difficult questions, some real, complex things here. For example, if your life was a movie, what genre would it be?
Very dark one. Like Dune is kind of dark, but I really like the soundtrack also, like how massive and like how like atmospheric it can be, but also like this Event Horizon level, like not like pure horror science fiction, but it is like it has to be dark science fiction if it's science. I would like to choose horror, but that would mean that I might die also in a horrible way, because that's what happens in horror movies. So
this is true. Okay, what is your favorite smell and why?
Forest after the rain.
All right. Well, I again don't want to take up too much of your time. I have other really important questions, like what Disney character you were afraid of when you were a kid?
None of the Disney characters, but there's one like this boogeyman in Moomins, which is
Oh yeah, oh
and
yeah.
that was terrifying. I was literally scared of that. It's like this Lord of the Frost or something like that. Like I don't. There's no translation, but it kind of like when it just came to the where the Moomins were living and everything froze around it. So I think it was later on. It's super cool, but it was very ominous and scary figure. That I was none of the Disney characters. There's nothing scary about Disney, but
yeah. Well, Moomin's the kind of Hello Kitty version for Scandinavia, kind of. So kind of all similar, falls under the same theme. All right, so a couple last questions here. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received from another musician?
No, I haven't. I think I haven't got that many like bigger life-changing advices. I've done so many mistakes myself, especially in the first 10 years of being a releasing artist. So I think I thought most of those lessons myself in a hard way.
And finally, just what is on the horizon for Wolfheart? What comes next?
Well, now it's 3 weeks for the album release. Then we do the Finnish tour in September, European tour in November. We are very close of confirming and announcing the North American tour for next year, which means that we like this time we have to do the 2 tours with one visa because of the COVID and Ukraine conflict, things got fucked up for the numbers of our past tours that we were planning to do. A second European tour needs to happen 25 also, then the festival season, hopefully back to Australia that we just did this March. So looks like it should be very packed like next 18 months.
Well, that sounds very exciting. And obviously this record I think is going to do quite well. So it may keep you on the road for a while.
I would hope so. It was rough times the past 3.5 years. So I wouldn't mind to have a little bit easier wave to ride with this album.
Okay. Well, I hope so as well. I wish you all the best of luck in the world with the release and with all the shows coming up. And we can't wait to have you back here in North America. So looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again. And thanks to Ghost Cult. Thanks to Tuomas. And thank you for this interview. You have a wonderful rest of your evening, sir. All right. Take care.